Hi, everyone. This is Cassie Crossley with the I Love My Job podcast. This time I have an interesting guest who loves her job, and not because she's making a huge income from her job, but because she really loves it. Tanya Lynn is a disc jockey at a music station in Colorado. I'm sure you'll enjoy the interview. Here we go. Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much for joining me on the I Love My Job podcast. How are you today?
You're welcome, and I am wonderful today. The sun's shining, and that always makes me happy.
Great. Can you introduce yourself, tell where you live, and a little bit about your personal life?
Okay, sure. My name is Tanya. I'm known on the air whenever I'm working as Tanya Lynn. Lynn is actually my middle name, and I decided to use that as my on-air name when I'm working on radio. Let's see about me. I live in Colorado now. My husband is originally from Colorado, so we just recently moved back to Colorado about 3 years ago. I grew up in Missouri, raised by a Texan mom and an Okie dad. And then we moved to Minnesota and lived there for about 17 years. And Minnesota is where I first got into working in radio. And then, as I said, we moved to Colorado. And I love Colorado so much. Love living here.
So tell me about your job. You mentioned being on air, so tell people what you do, because that's why we're here.
Yeah, I am a radio DJ. Over the years, let's see, I started out in 2001 working in radio. Off and on, when my kids were younger, I took a small break there in between. And I worked in country music radio for a long, long time, about 10 years. And now I work in contemporary Christian radio. And as a kid growing up, I always loved radio. I've listened to radio constantly, and it was just always something I wanted to do. I wanted to be in radio. And as a teenager, I was the kid that carried around the boombox and the box of tapes to all the parties and played the music for the skating parties and all that kind of thing. So I think I was destined to be in radio no matter what. So that is what I do. I am a radio personality. Now, at this point in time, I'm only part-time. I did have a time there for several years where I had a daily show. And right now I do weekends mostly. I fill in during the week when somebody's gone. As a matter of fact, in a couple weeks, I will be working all week long. And I love that because I miss having the daily show.
What, if any, what kind of education, schooling, or training do you need? Because all I remember, and people who are listening to this probably don't remember, is like WKRP Cincinnati. So that's the radio life that I recall.
You know what is so funny about that show is the first radio station I worked at was a very small station in the middle of a cornfield in Minnesota. And we made WKRP jokes all the time because our little station was so similar to that TV show, you wouldn't even believe it. That show is way more true than you would think.
Okay, good.
But as for schooling, I always intended to go to broadcasting school and never got a chance to. I got married young and started a family and just never got to go to school. So a lot of people that I've known throughout the years working in radio have gone to school, but you would be surprised how many actually didn't go to school. Like myself, I got lucky. I saw an ad in the newspaper that the radio station was hiring in a small town that we lived in, and they were willing to train. So I went down and they had me read some copy, and they liked what they heard. They decided to hire someone else for the full-time job, but they gave me the weekend position. And I started out working weekends and then just filling in wherever they needed me, and eventually worked into a daily show. So I learned on the job. I never went to school for that.
Now that you've been in the field for a long time, are there a lot of people that are hired because they have experience, or is there good opportunities for people without experience? Is it a requirement?
I am really not sure because I've only worked at 2 different stations over the years. But I do know this much. After working over 10 years in radio, when I moved to Colorado and applied in Colorado Springs, I got a job within a month because I already had so much experience, and they needed someone that knew how to run the board and knew the programs, and I knew how to do all that already. So I just hopped right in there and adjusted, whereas someone who hadn't had the on the hands-on experience probably would have taken longer to train.
the reason I was wondering is I knew lots of people at college who worked in the college radio station, and that sort of gave them some experience, unpaid. But
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think that would help. So experience isn't required, but knowing how all the systems and tools work is important for where you're going, I guess.
Absolutely. And I know we had some interns at the other station that I worked at in the summer sometime, and I would try to show them everything that I could think of that I had learned myself over the years, because sometimes they'll train you on things, but some stuff you learn on your own.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
I would try to remember, oh, okay, I remember learning this and going, hey, why didn't somebody tell me that? So I would be sure to tell the interns that so that they would have that experience.
Very nice. That's very helpful. Pass it on. That's great. In this kind of field, as a DJ part-time or full-time, do you know what the broad salary range is for somebody in that?
I couldn't tell you for sure because it varies, but I know whenever I started out in a little tiny radio station in 2001, I only made $4.15 an hour. No joke. But that was just part-time on Saturdays and Sundays. It eventually, I got raises, and as minimum wage came up, most of the time a part-time DJ will make minimum wage.
Okay.
As you have more experience, sometimes your bosses will feel that you deserve more. And as you are there longer, you get raises, obviously. So over the years, it's worked up. So it's a far cry from 415, that's for sure. But at first, whenever I started out, I almost would have worked for free. But of course, you never tell anyone that.
Yeah.
Because I loved it so much and I really enjoyed it, and I was learning as much as I could learn. So sometimes you just start out not making much and you just soak it all in and get as much experience and learn as much as you can.
That's why there's so many interns in the field, because I think it's just something you get passionate about, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me about your typical day. So you go into the station, and what do you do before you go on the air and when you're on the air and such?
Okay, usually whenever I come in on my regular shift, I'm usually on a Saturday, say that's my most regular one. I will come in, no one else has been in there. It's been in automation. So I will take it out of automation, put it into live, which involves working with the computer that's running things at the station. So I will put it into live. I will get everything set up and ready. I'll clock in, of course. Never forget that. And get it all set up and ready to go. I have my own headphones, which is very important whenever you're working in radio, that you have a good, comfortable set of headphones. So I'll plug those in, get everything all set up and ready, before my show is ready to go on. And I'll get everything. I'll look at we have a sheet that tells me what liners or what promos that we have going on. That's things that I need to talk about while I'm on the air.
Sure.
And I'll take a look at that, kind of read over it so that I am familiar with it if there's something new and I'm not like just getting on the air and talking about something I don't know about. Just kind of look over those things. Sometimes I'll look up a few little encouraging quotes or something interesting to say and kind of have that ready. And so that when I first go on the air, when it comes time for my first break, then I'll usually, introduce myself. Hey there, Tanya Lynn here with you. Hope you're having a great Saturday, whatever, and talk about the music that we're going to play or that we just played and go on from there. That's how I usually get started. I'll go throughout the day introducing the songs or sharing a funny little anecdote, or things like that throughout my shift. Occasionally I have to read the weather as well. So I have to have that up and ready. Sometimes I will write myself a short little description of the weather so that I have it written kind of in my own words, can go over that so I don't sound scripted. That's pretty much it, just kind of going throughout the day, trying to be upbeat and encouraging to my listeners. I'll take phone calls if people call in and play requests occasionally. Sometimes we have contests, which I really love to do because I love giving things away. And that's always fun. And then toward the end of the shift, I have my sign off at my last break where I talk, and I will, for instance, this has been Tanya Lynn here with you. It's been a great day. Thank you for joining me. I will talk to you again next week. Usually I'll have some little encouragement to share with people for them to take with them, and then sign off and then usually if someone else is not coming in after me, if someone's coming in after me, I just hand it over to them. If not, then I will put it back into automation, set it all up where it's ready to go on its own when I leave the station.
Nice. And I was going to ask you if people call in or if they tweet you with requests or anything like that.
Over the years, social media has become a much bigger part of radio. When I first started, we didn't even have a computer in the studio, and everything was CDs that I had to play. It eventually moved up into computers where all the music is on the computer, and you move the songs around by dragging them, on and off the screen and things instead of actually putting in a CD.
Yeah.
So now, people can call in and make a request. And if I have it or I have time, I can play it for them. People will put stuff on our Facebook. The radio station has Facebook, and they also have Twitter. So yeah, people will say things like that. Or, occasionally, they will say, hey, it's my brother's birthday. Can you tell them happy birthday? Now, during the week on the station I work at now, they have a particular show that they do the birthdays on. On the weekends, I pretty much have free range to do whatever. So if somebody has an anniversary or birthday, I can wish them a happy birthday or whatever anytime throughout my show. So that's kind of nice.
Nice. In your experience over the last 15 years, I'm sure you've had a few funny or interesting stories. Can you tell one of those, like what's happened to you on the job?
Oh, boy. Oh, there's so many things I could say. Oh, my goodness. The first station that I worked at was a little country station in the middle of a cornfield. So we had the farm reports that we had to do daily. I didn't do them myself. There was a man who did the farm report, and he was in another studio on the other side of the glass. So when it would get time, I'd have to be ready to switch it over to him. And there's been so many times when it would come time and I wasn't paying attention or somehow got distracted, and he'd be tapping on the glass looking at me like, hey, it's time for the farm report. And I'd be like, oh no. Or vice versa. I'd be ready, get it all ready for him, turn it on, intro the farm report, turn it up, and he's not in there. And I'd be like, oh no. So, you have to learn on the fly whenever that kind of thing happens. You just have to laugh and go, oops, looks like we have some technical difficulties. We'll be right back after this, and play an ad or play a song. You got to be ready when you're live on the air for anything to happen. Some of the funnier things that have happened is it's inevitable when you're in radio, you're going to get tongue twisted. You're going to say something wrong or mixed up. It just happens. It happens to the best. And so I laugh whenever I'm listening to the radio and I hear someone else mess up. I'm like, it doesn't just happen to me. So, but there is a band, a Christian band called Casting Crowns. Mm-hmm. And I had just started working at this station, hadn't worked here very long. And I knew the band. I don't know why it came out this way, but I was like, and that was Casting Clowns. I have no idea why that came out that way. All I could do was laugh. I was like, yeah, Casting Clowns, that's a new band. I think it's Casting Crowns. And then I just moved on, So when you make mistakes, all you can do is laugh and just go with it.
Did you ever have one of those dead air situations? Because I remember when I used to listen to radio all the time, for 3 minutes there'd be dead air because something didn't play and they didn't realize it.
Yeah. Now, where I work at now, that doesn't happen so often because it's set up where it'll just keep going unless you stop it manually. So that's very handy because when I first started out, if you weren't back in the studio in time to start that song, boy, you were in trouble because there was going to be dead air. Yep. If you had to go get a drink or use the restroom or you got sidetracked talking to someone in the hallway. Yeah. So I was always nervous and looking at my watch the whole time that I worked there because I wanted to be on the air. I didn't want to have dead air. I had some times whenever some equipment wouldn't work. If you go, like when I said before, when we worked off of just CDs, the CD skipped or it wouldn't play. The player decided to be weird that day. And I'd be totally panicking going, oh no, there's no music going on. So sometimes that stuff would happen. And that's like a DJ's worst nightmare is the dead air situation.
Is there anything that you are not a fan of in your job that you maybe dislike a little bit?
Well, let me think. I absolutely love working in radio, and I always have. So, it's really hard to think of anything that I don't like. The only thing maybe over the years that has bothered me with some situations is that in a job that works in communication, a lot of times people won't communicate with each other well. So you go to play something and then someone will say, "Hey, you weren't supposed to play that." And I'm like, "Well, nobody told me." So communication sometimes is the only thing that I can really think of that I don't like. I didn't like having to focus so much on when I worked in that station, that was country. It was in the middle of a farm community, had to talk a lot about weather.
Mm.
And I had to talk about it a lot, extensively. I probably didn't enjoy that as much. Now that I live in a bigger city, the weather is short to the point, and I like that a whole lot more.
Okay. And what do you love about your job? It sounds like there's many things, but what's your favorite thing?
My favorite thing is getting to play music, which I love. I love music, and getting to be a part of someone else's day and encourage them, lift them up, maybe make them smile. Just, to know that I'm, lifting someone up throughout the day. That's probably my favorite thing. I have some people that listen to me regularly, and it just really makes me happy whenever they say, "Oh, I heard you on the radio and I was so happy." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." That makes me feel great. I'm like, I'm doing my job good when people enjoy listening.
Is there any advice that you would give to somebody who comes across this podcast episode and says, "Oh, I want to be a DJ"? What would you tell them? What kind of person succeeds in this job?
I would say you have to absolutely love what you're doing, because it does get stressful sometimes, depending on the radio station and what kind of a show that you're doing. And there's going to be times whenever you make mistakes, and you just have to be ready for that. But if you love what you're doing, then it all works out eventually. If I didn't love what I was doing, there's been some days where the stress level was so high, I would
Mm.
be like, "Oh, forget this. I'm not going to do this anymore." But whenever you love what you're doing, that's the thing. So I would say love the job, love playing the music, love being on the air talking to your listeners. That's the most important thing.
Excellent. Do you have any book recommendations that may or may not be job related? There's probably not a lot of radio books out there, so.
No, not really. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever come across any. Now, TV shows and things like that, I've seen a lot of radio stuff because, being in radio, I pick up on that. But book-wise, no, there's not a lot. But I do love to read. And as a matter of fact, I'm reading a series of books right now by Rhys Bowen. They're called the Molly Murphy Mystery Series. And they're really great. I would highly recommend them to anyone who loves to read. She's a lady detective in the early 1900s. So, and she's an immigrant from Ireland, and it's just, they're really, really great books. I enjoy them. So I'm almost finished. I'm like reading the last one that Rhys Bowen has written so far. So I was trying to catch up, and now I'm like, oh no, when I finish this, there won't be another one until she writes more. That's the series I'm reading right now. And there's so many more I could probably say. I love the Amish storybooks, like by Beverly Lewis. I've read a lot of her things. Beverly Lewis actually lives here in Colorado Springs, and I have met her before, and she's very nice. So she's one of my favorite authors.
Well, I'll definitely include her links to her books in the show notes also.
Sure.
I know that because I follow you on Twitter. I know that you have some other hobbies that keep you busy in your free time. Can you tell me about those?
Well, let's see. I'm a creative person, and I kind of switch hobbies as the mood strikes me. I love to write, but I haven't written anything in a while. Actually, I have a book that was published in 2004 called Through the Window of Hope. And you could probably find it if you just Googled Tanya Lynn Smith Through the Window of Hope. But I started writing another book, and I just haven't finished it, and I need to get back to that, but I haven't been in the mood to write. So writing is one thing I do. I like to draw. I have done watercolor painting, but I haven't done that in quite some time. It's kind of one of those mood things there again. I love to sing. I sing, and I used to write songs, which I haven't done in quite some time either. But I sing quite often, and as a matter of fact, I'm supposed to sing a special at our church next month. So that's what I'm working on right now, trying to pick the right song and be ready for that. That's just a few of the things I do. I crochet a little bit here and there, pick that up once in a while when I'm in the mood. So I hop back and forth between crafty things and creative things and stuff like that.
That'll keep you busy during some of the winters in Colorado, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's when I tend to do more of that stuff whenever it gets wintertime and you can't get out.
Yeah.
I love to watch movies too. That's another thing. Read and watch movies.
So tell me about the best way for people to contact you if they have further questions about their job, about your job.
Sure. I am on Twitter. It is Weepin' Angel, and that's Weep, WEEP, the letter N, and Angel, and that's on Twitter, and they can contact me on there anytime.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. I think that this will really help people who are interested in the career, and it sounds like you love it, and that's why I wanted you on the I Love My Job, because I found you because you had mentioned, I think, on I Love My Job, and
Absolutely.
I saw that hashtag. So thank you so much.
Sure, no problem. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I just like to tell anyone out there that's interested in radio, you may not become a millionaire doing it, but you will absolutely love it if it's your passion.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me on the I Love My Job podcast. If you have any questions or would like to contact me, I can be reached through my email, Cassie@CassieCrossley.com, CassieCrossley, or you can reach me through my website, ilovemyjobpodcast.com. Thank you again for joining.